Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Nokian Tyres, Amber, and StarCharge. Nokian Tyres is a leader in safety and sustainability. Maximize performance and efficiency with their made in USA all-season tires and their dedicated Hakkapeliitta EV winter line from the inventor of the winter tire. Learn more at nokiantires.com/EV. This video is also brought to you by Amber. Amber offers a modern extended warranty for your Tesla's battery and more without the burden of long-term contracts or upfront payments. Check out the link in the description below to browse their plan options and get started with a free over-the-air diagnostic check. This video is also brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world, and is also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage and microgrid solutions.
Hello and welcome back to Out of Spec Reviews. Welcome to Wellington, Colorado, where we have our lovely Maverick filling station and we have our lovely VinFast VF8. It's time for this thing to finally get its range test under its belt. Let's see just how far the VinFast goes, and we'll talk about some of the lovely, endearing quirks, features. I don't know, there's a lot to talk about with this thing, and I'll mention some of that in this video, but the main point of this video is the 70 mile an hour standardized range test with the VinFast VF8 Eco. That's right, this is Francie's lovely VinFast in its beautiful deep ocean color. It's called deep ocean, which in my head would say blue, but this is actually quite green, although, you know, a little hint of blue. And I really do like the color. It gets a lot of comments. A lot of people ask, well, A, what is this car? But B, what's the color? People want to know about it. It's kind of cool. It garners attention, which not many crossover SUVs do, because we're in a day and age where just about everything's a crossover SUV. Also, there's an EV6 there, not charging. Interesting. All good, that's fine. He doesn't need to charge. This thing is charging up to 100% state of charge, and we are going to send it north and east. I say send it, I'll be driving it. And we're going to see just how far it goes at 70 miles an hour. We do this range test with pretty much every EV we can possibly get our hands on, and I'm curious to see what it actually does. Francie road tripped this thing out here. Videos are coming on the Out of Spec Motoring channel on that, and I guess it was fine. It really did the job fine, and she's actually really enjoyed this thing, which is great. I really am glad that she likes it, because I really don't like it, so I'm glad she lives with it and not me. There's a lot of weird quirks. Too much to get into with this video. So this video's focus is the range test, but there's a lot of weird things I'll mention maybe along the way in the range test. A lot of really quirky components to the software. Let's just see how far we are. No, don't shut down vehicle. We are at 99%. Still taking 9 kilowatts. The whole last 10% of the battery was charging at 9 kilowatts, which is frustrating. But as of the new update, it shows you incoming versus receiving. That 4 kilowatt disparity is basically because of AC, probably some battery cooling, stuff like that. And that is the rated range on the EPA's testing cycle, which is 264 miles. Now, this is a dual motor variant, 348 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. This is the Eco trim, the base model. There's also a premium model above this that has a bit more power, 402 horsepower, I believe. But yeah, this one just has 260 kilowatts spread between 2 motors, so it's all-wheel drive. I'm guessing it's 130 kilowatts per motor, but I'm not entirely sure. Either way, we have a pretty good day for range test. 88 degrees ambient, definitely hazy. Some Canadian wildfire haze is dwelling among us, which is a bummer. Kind of smells a little funny, but it should be good testing for the VinFast, and we'll see just how close we get to the EPA number. Guesses have been all over the place. I am probably gonna guess 240 miles, something like that. 230, not sure, we'll see. But we're gonna let it finish up charging, and then we'll go hit the road, and I'll walk you through all the little testing procedures. All right, charging has wrapped up. We are gonna go hit the road. I am so genuinely curious about this. We've been talking about range testing it for a while. Finally got to Colorado. Francie, what's your guess?
I think that for the VinFast VF8 range test, out of spec range test, that you are doing 247 miles for the range test. Why do I think that? It's really warm, so that helps things. You're going a steady 70 miles an hour, so no variations. And it's based off of driving the VinFast for over 4,000 miles on different road trips. The first road trip, it was pretty cold. We saw about 2.5, but in the summer it gets up to 2.7. You know, that's what I've seen. So that with an 87.7 kilowatt hour battery, I don't really know anything about the discharge of this battery, but yeah, generally that's what I think it's gonna do.
Okay, noted. Well, we'll see how close we get to that. I did get the Trip B reset here. There we go. So we will track our efficiency along the way. And heading out on the drive. Got climate set between 68 and 72 on its most eco-friendly setting, which in this, there's no actual eco-ness. You just kind of set the climate and go. And then you have to change the drive mode every single time you get in the car to what you want. It doesn't really retain settings very well. Actually, it retains almost no settings, which is definitely one of my biggest complaints. We'll see if I can squeeze out of here. But yeah, finally heading out. Let's see what the old VF8 does. Well, as you can see, the cameras make it look like it's 1997. Not great cameras. And we have a Jeep Wrangler 4xe in front of us, plug-in hybrid. Love to see those. Judging by the paint match fenders, that would probably be the Sahara trim from Florida. Pretty sweet. But anyways, when you turn the turn signal on, it has it set to where the cameras turn on, which is pretty cool. But then it covers your navigation and pretty much everything else in the screen. Oh, and now they're gone. So camera comes up only while you are stopped, I guess, which is interesting. But we are now easing onto the highway here, and we're gonna get up to 70 miles an hour constant, which is actually, to its credit, GPS accurate. Many cars that we test may show, 70 miles an hour, but then in reality it's 71 or 69 or something like that. But here we go, 70, and come on. There we go. Okay, 70. This does have lane centering, and to its credit also, lane centering is available like anywhere there's lanes. So it's not pre-mapped to a highway, which is great. Really love to see that. There's way too many cars that are pre-mapped to highways. Yeah, imagine that. We're in a world where this has more cruise control capability than a Rivian. Anyways, now just staying on this road for a long time. What we'll do is check in with you guys at 75%, 50%, and 25% state of charge. But we'll also check in when we turn around, which is typically about 55%, and we'll just see how far we can go at 70 miles an hour. This is a weekday, kind of the middle of the day. I'm not expecting really any traffic, maybe some summer travel traffic, but I've been able to do a couple range tests this week and have had no actual issues retaining speed. And it's been fun to see some of the other EVs out and about. Pretty great. But man, so many things to get into with this car. I do think we'll have a whole separate video of like maybe me and Kyle together talking about it, because I think between the two of us we'll have a lot of notes. This screen feels kind of cluttered to me. I'm just curious to get your guys' input along this whole video. Anything I mention, if you have a thought, leave that in the comments below, because I will be reading all of these comments. I have a heads-up display, which you might be able to see there. Yep. And that shows various information, sometimes good, sometimes not good. But I'm glad to see it. Honestly, you can tell they benchmarked Tesla having the middle screen, but then they also included a heads-up display, which I really like. I wish that was kind of an option with Tesla, even a really minimal one, just like speed. I know it's right there, but yeah, I'm sure I can nitpick the heck out of this thing. But honestly, we're just going to enjoy our drive. This thing does seem decent at higher speeds. The drivetrain calibration around slower speeds really annoys me. It has sort of one pedal driving but no auto hold, so you just roll backwards at a stoplight if you stop and it has a little bit of an incline, unless you turn on creep, which will then counteract the stop. Out of that, there's a lot to get into. I'm going to try to keep this range test focused and kind of tell you guys about the highway performance. Like I mentioned, pretty warm outside. I also don't know why there's two different temperatures. It's not like one's inside the car and one's outside. I think it's just one is the measured temperature, the other is the like weather channel of the area temperature, which I don't know why you'd show both, but here we are. Otherwise, I think the climate shouldn't have any issue keeping up. We have no glass roof. You'd have to get the premium, or I guess plus trim for that. The plus trim would also give better seats, maybe ventilated seats, I'm not sure. But these are just kind of the base seats. The faux leather, the plus trim upgrades to vegan leather. It's all fake leather. MPH, or noise, vibration, and harshness, actually pretty good. The ride quality, also pretty good. It's not bad. Like, this would be a fine road tripper if you asked me. But then you have like really rough, squeaky, not quality feeling door handles, and just all the materials are kind of a mixed bag in here. Some stuff's okay, some stuff less so. The seats are okay, but not my favorite. You don't even have lumbar adjustment in the driver's seat. Bear in mind, sorry, I forgot to mention it, this is a $46,000 car as standard, and you can upgrade to a bit over 50 grand with the plus model. There's a lot of compelling competition for less than that. However, we here at Out of Spec, aka Francie, got this because of a really good lease deal, and that's kind of the caveat. Like, you can actually get more expensive cars for pretty cheap prices, and for $250 a month or whatever it was, this does seem pretty compelling at that point, especially if it has the range. I don't think the charging is great. Peak charging that I've seen is like 130, 140 kilowatts. Typically tapers quite quickly. Driver's assistance is quite good, especially when it works around town. Sometimes it really starts to fail and falter, but on the highway it does seem to do pretty well. A little bit of ping-ponging every once in a while, but I think it's a capacitive wheel. USB ports, a couple USB-A up front. They're both about 5, maybe 7 watts, really slow. Same in the back, a couple slow ones, but one super high-powered one, USB-C, that's 90 watts. That's fantastic. And then yeah, no wired CarPlay. Even though that says USB, not just charging down here, it doesn't do wired CarPlay or wired media of any kind, unless maybe you're doing wired Android Auto, but it only has wireless CarPlay, which is a disappointment for me. Wireless CarPlay is just, in general, a bit buggy if you ask me. But, well, I don't know. I never really use CarPlay in this anyways, because the CarPlay resolution on the screen looks pretty terrible. It's just like really big, but not nice looking. And yeah, the sound system, probably one of the worst I've ever heard in a car, but the best volume knob I've ever felt in a car, bar none. I've never seen that type of disparity before, where the music, like listening to the music, terrible. Controlling the music, lovely. So I just missed the bison on the hill, but at that point we crossed, well, let me zoom out here, we crossed 90% state of charge. So that's usually when I like to check in, along with the border of Wyoming right here. And yeah, I think my guess is looking pretty close, judging by other vehicles. But again, this is its own vehicle. We're dealing with its own discharge curve. There's a lot of variability with these tests and these cars. Now there's also driver monitoring, which detect if you're like sleepy, like blinking too much or something like that, but not really sure if that's turned on. In fact, I think that's actually been glitching lately. And in fact, I don't think it's been on this whole day. In fact, to keep going to the in facts, if we go to service here, driver monitoring system fault. Okay, well, that's one of the faults that's been happening lately. So no driver monitoring system, which is great. It drives me nuts, and if you turn it off, every time you get back in the car it turns back on again. So that's just one of my major frustrations with this car. All right, I pulled over for a quick second right off the highway because I had a adaptive cruise control fault. It wouldn't let me do cruise control of any kind. No lane keeping, no normal cruise, no adaptive cruise, just nothing worked. So I got out, turned the car off, back on again. We should be good to go. Trip B is still counting, so that should all be fine. Easing back up here to 70 miles an hour once again. Let's see if that resolved itself. There's been a few random quirky errors that have happened in this car. Most of them seem to just be not even an issue, but now we're popped up here. Okay, 70 miles an hour again. We're back in business. Yeah, there's been a lot of random weird quirks that just happen, and then, oh, see, there we go. I hit the turn signal and it didn't actually register that I used the turn signal. that's another quirk, I guess. The stocks look very familiar, you know, very BMW-ish. There's some things that are kind of ZF in here as well, but yeah, back at 70. Hopefully no more faults. That was really weird. It just suddenly would not keep cruise control. There's no way my foot would have been able to keep exactly 70 miles an hour. That would have been a nightmare. So let's hope for the best and keep going. What's pretty interesting is that the speed limit with lane centering is actually 93 miles an hour. It'll lane center up to 93. Not that that's useful to me right now, but that's 150 kilometers per hour. Top speed in this thing, 200 kilometers an hour, which is 124-ish miles per hour. Not too shabby for an SUV. It is 2-row, 5 seats, yet this thing weighs 5,400 and something pounds. The Plus model weighs 5,700 pounds. I don't even know where that extra weight is coming from, unless the glass roof is like that much heavier. I guess the seats are a bit more premium and heavier. The sound system's more premium. There's like, that's amazing. That is significantly heavier than a Model X. But this thing, yeah, 5,400 pounds, pretty heavy as well. It's like over 1,000 pounds more than a Model Y, with, I think, kind of a more expensive price tag than a Model Y. So I'm just trying to think, who would buy this over a Model Y, except for the really good lease deal. Well, adaptive cruise control is an issue. It just threw the brakes on. I am back to manual driving. I'm gonna try to get it back to 70. Might try to get off the highway one more time and see if we can reset that again. Let's see, how hard is it to keep 70? I mean, not too bad. So that's a worst case scenario, but it's not gonna be perfect. So I think next exit I'll try to do that again. Okay, never mind. 70 is now working. And the error went away. This is such a weird car. All right, 75% check-in. We've done 62.5 miles and 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Really not too bad. So that's that. I haven't had any more weird glitches with the driver's assistance. Just those 2 so far. So hoping for the best for the rest. And I'll see you guys when we turn around just above 50%. We're about to exit here for Potter. We've used this exit before. I mean, we've used like every exit along this route because we've range tested so many cars with so many different ranges. I could probably do the next exit that's 10 miles down, but here's the thing. I don't know the linearness of this discharge curve. So I could do another 10 miles and do a 20-mile extra section, or I could do the 20-mile loop right back by the charger where I can, you know, more easily play it safe on side roads, etc. So looping around here at 109 miles under our belts, and I'm rounding back to Wellington. We also don't believe this car does any sort of preconditioning, so I could route to the charger, but as a rule of thumb, we just don't route to the charger, just in case some cars do precondition. We're trying not to burn any extra energy that we don't have to. But looping around here, and gonna jump back on the highway. And yeah, it's been great. I mean, 0 traffic, 0 wind. I mean, the wind speed is like 2 miles an hour, so really quite good. This does have a state of charge upon arrival, and from what I can tell, that's actually fairly accurate. All right, back up to 70 miles an hour. The elevation is a consideration with the efficiency and stuff, so we don't turn around at 50% because, yes, we don't know the discharge rate necessarily. We don't know if this car is like lower half of the battery discharges faster than the upper half. There's also sometimes wind, but today no wind to deal with. But also elevation, we're a bit lower than we will be in Cheyenne, but then we also go down back to Wellington again. So it seems fairly flat. I mean, look at that. But it's actually very minor elevation gain, you know, up towards Cheyenne, and a little bit of drop back towards here in Nebraska. But we'll see. I'm going to keep an eye on this and see how accurate it is. Some cars, it gets scary because it starts dropping. You're like, what am I doing? I'm just driving. And they just don't calculate elevation well. In this case, I do expect that to stay pretty accurate. But like I said, there's another place I could easily loop back to the charger to get us down to the bottom of the pack. I also forgot to mention the efficiency. Another quirk of the software, by the way, you tap this to go here. this screen will disappear in a few seconds. But the efficiency is about 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour when I turned around. So that's not bad. I expect that to go, see, there it goes, disappeared again. This car, I tell you what. But we'll see if that stays the same. I'm guessing high twos is about accurate. When Francie and I initially got this car, we road tripped it back from North Carolina back to Tennessee, and got about 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. We were doing a bit higher speeds than this because this is just our standardized 70 mile an hour test, but we were doing typical 75-ish. It got 2.7. So I do expect to see 2.8, 2.9. That's a realistic number if you ask me. But we'll find out. All right, checking in, 50% state of charge. We've done 128 miles. So we are on track for 250, which is, hey, better than I expected. We are averaging also 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour still. So that's just kind of the trip average that we've settled into. About to come back into the construction zone, but no real traffic, so I don't really expect to have to scrub off any speed either, and the percentage on arrival is sticking right at 10%, so we probably could have kept going, but hey, whatever. 20-mile loop on either end is a 20-mile loop, doesn't really matter. So yeah, better than I expected, honestly, and no more driver assistance faults so far, knock on piano black plastic. But yeah, no major critical issues. Still no driver attentiveness, but that's hilarious that that's like an issue that I'm happy about, because that is so annoying. You can turn it off, but you have to turn it off every single drive. Otherwise, mostly good here. I'm trying to think of other quirks. There are many, as I mentioned. This, even though this shows hundreds on here, so it's trying to be really granular, the accuracy of this display is really quite poor. If we cross another road, the delay between that road showing us crossing it here versus real life is about 2 seconds. And then this is where it'll show cars around you, kind of like a Tesla or a Rivian, but it's typically completely off. Not completely, like sometimes it's more accurate, like especially on a highway situation, but around town it'll try to render some of the cars, and it's just like, I'm not really sure why it's even trying. It's really quite inaccurate there. So just adding to the quirks, you tap this to show the camera and then wait a few seconds, and then it'll tell you, come on, wait a few seconds, then it'll say camera not available. So it's just kind of funny. But let's see if I can show you right here. We're about to cross under this bridge, and all right, we just crossed under it right now, and there, now we crossed it. So about 2 seconds difference. That's just a quick example. It's not a big deal, but navigating around town, it seems to be 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, and I have missed turns because I'm looking at the screen and thinking, oh, it's the next one, but no, it's one I just passed. So little, like I said, quirky, rough around the edges. It feels like this product was not really done. It did have a software update about a month ago. Francie took it by the VinFast dealer in Wichita, Kansas on her way out here. That did fix some quirks. I guess it was even more buggy before that, but it still just feels quite prototypey is a good word for that. All right, checking in at 25% state of charge at 180 miles and at 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour. That makes perfect sense to me. Like I said, this is all looking pretty expected. It's now showing 8% arrival. It's oscillated between 8 and 11%, just depending on where I'm at. And yeah, so we'll see. I think I'll have maybe just enough to do a 20-mile loop, basically 10 miles back north from the charger, loop around. And by the way, place hands on the wheel. This is a capacitive wheel. Typically, wheels that are capacitive let you also, you know, put torque on them. Not this one. No amount of torque will tell it that I'm actually here. Turn signal won't tell it I'm actually here. And the turn signals, by the way, don't auto-cancel themselves. So you have to actually touch the wheel. To its credit, it's a good capacitive wheel. Every single part of the outside is capacitive, but nothing on the inside is capacitive, and no amount of torque, not even changing lanes, tells the car that you are actually here. So, very different methods. I've criticized Tesla for requiring too much torque to make me happy, and I'll criticize us for not allowing any torque. I mean, what if you have thick gloves on in the winter that don't allow for the capacitiveness of your hand to pass through to the wheel? Will that mean no function in the winter? I don't know. These are all things I'm curious about. Francie can let us know, I guess, next winter, or I guess I could test it with gloves on in the summer. Weirder things have happened. But just a quick call out to another, yet again, frustration with the VinFast. All right, jumping off the highway back right by the charger to do a loop. We arrived here with 12%. It kept saying, well, it oscillated between 7 and 11, kind of settled in on 11% there. The charger's right over there. Of course, we're not going to use that, but yeah, time to do another about 20-mile loop and see where that puts us. There's also a shorter 6-ish mile loop when we get back if we need to add a little bit more. Still on the highway, so that will be nice. But we've done 220 miles. It's pretty good. Some people guessed as low as that. Guesses are pouring in all over the place. So, yeah, not sure, but I think it's looking like we'll do, not EPA, but not too far off either. Doing maybe my last highway turnaround. We'll see. I might be doing some frontage roads, because right now the state of charge back on arrival is 2%, which is probably not quite enough for that other 6-mile loop I mentioned. So some frontage road action may be occurring. Easing back up here to 70. It seems like we do still have enough power to get out of our own way. Down here at 7% state of charge. No real readout on sort of power limitations, but ooh, just hit 6%. Now it's saying state of charge on arrival will be right about 1. So this is super interesting because it's kind of slated to be right between me and Francie's guesses. I guessed 240 just partially randomly because that's what I got with the Rivian recently. So I was like, well, I just did 240 miles. Maybe I'll do it again. But it's actually looking to be pretty close. Her math is valid. 87.7 kilowatt hour battery pack multiplied by 2.8 to 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. You're looking at right about that. So we'll see. Might be. I didn't expect either of us to be this close, but this is kind of fun. So it's going to be close, Francie. I don't know. One of us owes the other a drink, depending on the results. We got a warning that said EV battery very low, and then, of course, I missed the warning. I think I'm going to take frontage roads, play it safe. I don't know exactly how this car acts down low in the pack. I don't want to be stranded. Definitely don't want to be stranded. Ooh, definitely power is less. Just hitting the pedal, it's doing less than it used to do before. There we go. Got the warning yet again. But it's still showing 3%, so I don't know, maybe I could have done that loop. It's so hard to tell at the bottom of the pack how conservative or non-conservative they are. So we'll just see. Frontage road, I'm close to highway speeds, so it's near as makes no difference anyways, but this is all interesting learning with the VinFast. Oh, there we go, 2%. Yeah, so maybe it's good that I didn't do that. This is interesting. AC has shut off. I didn't do that. It still says it's on, but I assure you, it is no longer cold. So maybe the car did that as a protective measure. I'm not really sure what's going on, but AC is definitely shut off, which is not ideal given the circumstances of the weather outside. Let's see if I can show. I don't know how to go back home. There we go. 88 degrees. Yeah, pretty toasty. But that's a bit unfortunate. I think I'll be turning around up here. By the way, the map has crashed twice in this drive, and it seems to be working right now, but there's a few times earlier where I tried to do something and it would just, literally the application would crash, and then you have to reopen it, and then it would reload saying, VinFast, maps, something like that. So a bit strange. 1% state of charge now, and the rated range remaining still saying 2.5 miles, but that's just a percentage of the EPA numbers, so not actually calculated. And it is saying 0% back at the charger. So we're getting close here. I think once it hits 0, I'm really just going to call it because I don't want to risk anything. It is still getting up to decent speed even with the low state of charge, but I don't know. It's a bit scary to me. There's just enough quirks with this car that I don't know if I want to take it below zero, especially since AC was forced off. I don't know if that was a early precautionary thing or what that's all about. And by the way, the expected range is, like I said, a rated range, and I don't want that. I don't want to rely on that. Even I've given Rivian enough crap about being a rated range based on the EPA, but at least they still walk the numbers down. Like if you have 8 miles of range in a max pack, that means 2%, but then it'll do 7 miles, 6 miles, 4, 5 miles, whatever. This does not. Basically, it's literally percentage times like rounding to the nearest rated range. So that should go to zero when the battery hits zero, which is a little scary. You know, even though they have granularity with the tenths in this case, they're not counting that down, so I'm not sure what exactly they're reading. Oh my gosh, we have 0% battery, 0 miles remaining, and no AC. I am going to for sure put it in the charger. We made it, folks. All right, well, it's getting hot in here, but time to look at our final stats. 246.1 miles. I think someone on Twitter guessed 246, so right on the money. 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour was the average efficiency. It's ironic to me that it shows like distance to the hundredths, but then actual miles per kilowatt hour only shows down to the tenths. Still, that's fine. We made it, 0%. And as I suspected, this went from 2.5 straight to 0. So this is not like, you cannot rely on that whatsoever. But there we go. It's getting really hot in here. Still no AC. No idea why it didn't tell me it was cutting off AC. That's really confusing. All right, charging is ramping up. It says 1 hour and 23 minutes to full. Not quite ideal, but what's important is we are retaining juice, charging this thing back up. So there you have it, our VinFast VF8 Eco Trim. Range test 246 miles. Congrats, Francie, you were closer than me. Makes sense, you've lived with this car a lot longer than I have, but we were both pretty close. 246 miles means 93% of the EPA, which is not bad. We've seen cars fare much worse. We've also seen cars exceed EPA, but that's typically been just the Germans. So this thing did okay. I mean, I had multiple faults on the driver's assistance system, and there's just a lot of quirks. This is like lots of deal breakers for me on this car. Do not really like it, but good color, and I care about color. Decent design, Pininfarina design. Lots to get into with the VinFast. Francie did a 10% challenge. It did actually okay with that too. It's genuinely okay. This is usable range for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that I think could have this car and be okay with it, be happy with it. Francie's been happy with it. That's great. All power to you, Francie. It's not for me, but it's for someone. And they have sold some, they've leased some, they're not popular. I mean, a lot of people have stopped me, even while I've had it since Francie left, saying, what in the world is that thing? So, pretty fun. It's fun to have a car that people are curious about, and glad we had a successful range test. Weather was perfect, everything was about perfect with that, so besides the few faults here and there. But that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I know that was kind of a longer one, but there's just a lot of things to get into with this car, and we're covering the heck out of it. So, more to come. Cheers, y'all.